we are live on YouTube and Periscope, I believe. And they could probably hear us now if they're in there.
Is Derrick Henry going to keep being good?
I think so, dude. Is that Des Bryant in your background?
That is Des Bryant. No, that's Irvin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I should swap it with the one you can see here. My boy.
I'm figuring out how to work this, so if anybody's listening to us...
Hey, look, ESF Live alert. Dale and Brito are breaking down their week. I'm just fucking with you. I know you sent that out.
So I don't know how to do this.
So, Yeah, man. Derrick Henry's looked good.
Yeah. I wonder if we're on YouTube right now.
I can find out. Just an FYI, there's a very strong chance that I will get up multiple times to pee during this live show.
Man.
What?
Why are you going to go pee so much?
Because I told myself today, okay, so do you want the full ass story?
No.
Okay. All right, basically I just want to drink more water. And so I've done that today, and but it makes me pee a lot.
Okay.
It doesn't show like we're live on YouTube.
No, I don't know why. We should be.
We do have a video called
I see it. No, we're live.
Test.
We're live.
From 2 days ago.
We're good. It looks good.
Can you delete the test video?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So it looks like we're live everywhere. All right. I am getting rid of this screen. There you go.
Fantasy, you rocking with the best. NFL fantasy football podcast.
Oh, yeah, we got it. We'll do all that in post-edit.
We're talking mock draft, running backs, better follow.
Wait, hold on. I think we're...
Conversation with John, Dale, Christian, and Armando.
We are live, by the way.
Screaming Eat Nation. We doing what we like. Tune in every week. Guaranteed to get it hype. Fantasy, football enthusiasts. Right. I know you plan to be joining us on Eat Sleep Fantasy.
Fantasy.
You ready?
It does say one is watching, but I think it's me. It says it's a little locked button. I don't know what the hell is going on, but we'll do it and we'll see. If anybody's watching on YouTube, can you write a message? And we should be on Periscope too.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Eat Sleep Fantasy Football Podcast, also known as the... Can I say YouTube? Can I just say YouTube, the Fantasy Football Podcast? We're the YouTube of Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Christian Brito. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Dale DeMott in his beautiful Eat Sleep Fantasy Miami Vice style shirt. What's up, man?
What's up? Oh, yeah. Long story. Man, should I get into last night's story or no? Is this even going to be interesting at all? I'll just...
Okay, just make it a 1 minute story. Go.
I set everything up. I put my camera up. I did all the graphics. I was ready to go. Set up my microphone. Got everything situated for the first live show that we're doing of the season. And I went to put my daughter down to bed at 8:30, and I fell asleep, and I did not wake up again until like 3 a.m.
So, two things. One,
yeah,
I will not shame you too much because that has happened to me before.
Mm-hmm.
But two, do you know why that happened to you?
No, why?
You are older than Frank Gore.
Yeah, that's true.
However, Frank Gore did just fine this weekend, so that's nothing to be ashamed about, man.
Yep. I did. I've been doing good. I went to the doctor and got a B12 injection.
Okay.
I don't know really what it does. I just told him to do it. It did give me a little energy. I have a little pep today, so I'm ready to go. We are talking about our Week 3 rankings. This will be all video as well, but if you're listening in a podcast form, we apologize because it's really hard to figure out what's going on between audio, video, and all that stuff. So we're trying it out, so my apologies ahead of time if this isn't working out good for everybody.
What we want to do here, guys, is really we want to put out content for you everywhere that you might be listening. So that's why we started with everything on all the platforms for podcasts. But I, for one, and I know a lot of our listeners, do a lot of YouTube. I'm YouTube for music, but I also listen to a lot of audios on YouTube itself. And so we wanted to make sure that we get on there. But through that medium, we also want to be able to put out videos, which we've been doing. We've been doing multiple things on there. So please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's a very good way to stay in touch there, to get notifications when the latest podcasts drop. You can put notifications on there as well with the little bell alerts or whatever. Or you can just subscribe to the channel and make sure that you're checking in and be updated with our latest pods and videos on there.
Yep. Don't forget website eatsleepfantasy.com for all our rankings as we go through all this stuff. It's free. You do have to log in, but really, I'll be completely honest, because we're kind of a new site, we like to build up our email list so we can email updates and stuff like that. We want to start doing like weekly emails. We haven't really done that yet, but that's what we're going for right now, is for everybody to get rankings. Give us your email address so we can send you emails later. You can always opt out of it. It's something new we're kind of trying. So if you want all the rankings, they're all free. You just have to sign in.
All right. Yep. easleepfantasy.com. It's a website. So let's get into our show here, Dale, because I know that you want to go ahead and talk about our rankings and where you're right and where I'm wrong, because you've been better at rankings through the first 2 weeks than I have, which I think is new for you, right?
It's kind of clicking. I feel like I am ready to go in ranking. The first week, Brito and myself are part of the expert consensus on Fantasy Pros. If you don't know what Fantasy Pros is, it's probably one of the biggest fantasy websites in the world. But so we're fantasy rankers, and we get scored based off of how we do every week. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's just they compare us and our rankings with everyone else on the site.
So the first week I was like 30 out of like the 200. This week I was number 12 out of the 200 or so. So you might want to listen to me.
Top 5 this week?
Oh man, I hope so. I really have kind of buckled down on my rankings. I'm not so willy-nilly this year. Not going too bold, but I'm going realistic, and it's working out.
I am like I'm like a fine wine. I get better with age. As the season goes along, I think I will get better, because I'm typically a really good ranker. I don't know what happened these first 2 weeks. I will say I'm probably just a little bit too stuck on my preseason ranks and need to throw some of those out the door, because we've seen through 2 weeks that some of those stocks should have validly plummeted, and there are players that we can't trust even after just 2 weeks.
Yep.
So let's kind of get a little bit into that. I know that you're displaying on our graphic there, Dale, our top running backs. So let's talk a little bit about our top running backs at each position. Who here stands out to you in this top 10?
Okay, so we're looking at, and I just threw it. The graphic is basically the top 8. We are new at this video stuff, but because I can only get 8, I couldn't fit 12 or 10. But so we're looking at our rankings.
Dale, come on, man. That's what she said. Can you just stop for the joke?
Oh, sorry.
Fuck.
Sorry. I'm telling you, I'm not good at multitasking. So I'm trying to look at making sure our stream is doing okay and still visible and all that stuff.
Right.
Anyways, so yeah, our top 10, our top 8. There we go. Mm-hmm. The biggest question that actually we're getting a lot is about Alvin Kamara and what he's up to and how much faith we have in him. He's playing Seattle. I have him at 7. You have him in the top 5 at 5 exactly.
Right.
I don't know. Do you want to start with Alvin Kamara and go from there?
Do you feel scared of Kamara? Because I mean, obviously, no Drew Brees at Seattle.
Yep.
But other than that, it's not nothing has hugely changed. Obviously, there is a downgrade at the quarterback position with Teddy Bridgewater. I know there's been a little bit of talk about Taysom Hill, whom I think might actually come in and be in some packages with Taysom Hill as well. But I think in both of those scenarios, you have potential running quarterbacks, which should open up a little bit for Kamara. And 2, I think Kamara's just going to get more work this week.
Yeah,
you balance that out with maybe it's a little bit less efficient, but more work typically will result in more fantasy points. Now, take that down a notch because efficiency should go down with the defense that they're playing. They're away and the downgrade at quarterback. But I think you should treat Kamara as usual, a top 5 running back.
I'm not too. I mean, look what happened with Le'Veon Bell last week without Sam Darnold and without Trevor Siemian. Over 30 touches for the game. I mean, they were just feeding him and Kamara is very similar to Bell, how he plays and probably how they're going to game plan and get the ball in his hands as often as possible. I mean, he's a playmaker, so not necessarily a bad thing when you have a worse quarterback. When you have a not as skilled quarterback, they're going to dump down a little bit more, and that's where Alvin's going to flourish. So I'm not scared. I am a little worried about New Orleans and their offensive production overall. He's going to get his touches, but how often is he going to get opportunity to score is what I'm a little nervous about.
Yes, and that's kind of a valid concern, especially since through 2 weeks you haven't seen a touchdown for Kamara, right? He still was very hugely productive in week 1, but didn't score there, even though their offense put up 30 points. And then here last week, obviously 60 yards is nothing great for a running back for like him. So this week I expect double-digit points, but I am hesitant to say, hey, we're going to have these huge games from Kamara because of that slightly capped offensive upside.
Yeah. All right, let's talk. Actually, since we are live and we're doing this, you and I both, or actually, I have Dalvin Cook at 2. You have him at 3. Pretty high for a guy that was drafted as an RB2 so early in the year against Oakland this week.
Right.
What do you? While you talk a little bit about Dalvin Cook, you have Zeke, Christian McCaffrey, then Dalvin Cook. You want to talk a little bit about that? I'm going to check something really quick on the other end.
Well, you take what he's done in the first 2 games, even take last week. Their offense only put up 16 points. It wasn't a stellar performance for that offense in general, and yet he had 20 carries, 154 rushing yards, tacked on another 37 receiving, and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Week before versus Atlanta, they had the game in hand for most of the game, and yet still Dalvin Cook 120 yards total and 2 touchdowns. It seems like not only is he has a little bit of both things here. Not only is he going to be their workhorse, but he also has the ability to just rip a 75-yard touchdown whenever. Yeah. We saw it in the preseason. We saw it last week. He's averaging, 7.5 yards a carry?
Crazy.
And he's getting a lot of carries. So, Dalvin Cook this week, Oakland, they're at home. Everything's pointing to he's going to have a great week. No qualms.
Yeah.
Again, what was our thing about Dalvin? He stays healthy, he'll be good.
Yeah.
He stays healthy, he'll be a top 12 running back. So as long as he's on the field, top 12 running back.
Yeah. And look at our top 8. I'm going to bring that back here. I know this is just week 3, but we have Nick Chubb and Dalvin Cook in our top 8 that definitely weren't even in the top 12 being drafted. So that's how quick things can change. And how much faith.
They were both, kind of just outside.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's why they've kind of jumped in because they've had Chubb has had a decent week. Had a decent week this past week, but it got the carries, got the catches. When you look at 22 total touches in a game like that, that's something that's super encouraging. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be kind of a prime time-ish game this week. You expect Cleveland to step up their game and Chubb to have a good game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they're going to – I think Nick Chubb, and maybe we could talk about Nick Chubb next, is this is more, I guess, not only this week, but we're just talking about these players here for you guys. Nick Chubb is going to be more and more and more and more involved as we move forward. Do you agree? I mean, they're gonna
as
feed him
we
the
move
ball.
forward
Yeah.
until we have some involvement late in the season by Kareem Hunt. I
You
do
still
think
that?
eventually when Kareem Hunt comes back, I don't think there's going to be. Well, first of all, he's a little hurt himself. He had what is it, hernia surgery, I believe. And even though he's suspended for the first 8 games, he still needs to recover and come back. But he will get some work. I don't think Nick Chubb will be super impacted, but there will be some work that goes to Hunt.
Okay.
Let's not just like chalk it up as Hunt is some sort of scrub here.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. That'd be a... Never mind.
What?
Don't worry about it.
I'm trying to figure out how to do this stupid streaming thing on YouTube. I don't think we're live on YouTube right now, which is annoying.
I know we're live on Periscope. Do you know why? Because I'm watching myself. I look good.
You're looking better than you used to look. That's for sure.
Wow. What's wrong with how I used to look?
Where is the stupid
What's
thing?
wrong with how I used to look, Dale?
Huh? What?
I look good. I'm looking at myself. I look great. Yeah. You need to leave me alone, man. Anyways, let's move on here a little bit, Dale. I want to talk to you about a guy who is just outside of my top 10.
Okay.
But he is not necessarily even consideration for that top 10 for most rankers on Fantasy Pros, and he isn't in your top 10. And that's Todd Gurley.
Mm-hmm.
Todd Gurley did get a touchdown here in week 2, but we had concerns about him in week 1. Anything solved for you in week 2 with his 19 total touches?
The 19 touches were encouraging, for sure.
15 touches the week before. Are you still worried about Todd Gurley?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. What was it's kind of hard like looking at the chats and going back and forth, but yeah, I mean, Todd Gurley is going to be okay. It's not like I didn't plummet his ranking. I mean, he's still, a strong RB2. It's just I don't trust him as much as Austin Eckler. I don't trust him as much as Aaron Jones, Marlon Mack, Derrick Henry. Like, you can't really form an argument that's going to have me trust Todd Gurley in what the coach's decision is moving forward with when he gets the ball and how often and especially where.
I'm going to press you a little bit on this.
Okay.
What on earth would make you trust Aaron Jones more than Todd Gurley moving forward?
Well, just the past couple weeks. I
mean, week 1, you saw 13 rushes for 39 yards for Aaron Jones. And while Gurley hasn't been stellar top 2 running back Gurley, he's been productive for 2 weeks. We're talking about 101 total yards in week 1 and what was it? 60-something yards and a touchdown in week 2. Again, nothing amazing, but I think this is a nice opportunity for. I think this primetime game is going to be a good, nice scoring game for both offenses, and I'm just not out on the Todd Gurley bandwagon. Like, I'm not on this "hey, Gurley's done" train that people seem to be on.
Okay, I don't think he's done. I mean, am I saying he's done by calling him an RB2?
It's sad.
It's a far away from where he was, I guess, 2 years ago, right? But I don't think I just don't think he's going to be more than that strong RB2.
All right, so here's the real optics here. The question that I have for you about the appearance of what I'm about to do. How bad does it look when a podcaster who is doing a live show decides that he needs to go to the bathroom halfway through that show.
It's not even halfway through. Jesus. We're 20 minutes in. Not even 20 minutes in.
Yeah, so we're like halfway through our show.
Okay, I guess, kind of.
Okay, so I decided I wanted to drink more water.
Oh, no.
And I've been carrying around a little gallon jug with me to the gym. Before that, I had, water at work. I've had more than a gallon of water today, with most of that coming within the last 3 hours. I'm probably going to pee now and then again later in the show.
Oh, geez. Well, don't go now.
Bye.
No. Don't. Oh, man. Okay. Well, you guys asked for it, and you have it. So right now our live stream, it says burrito. Where does it say? Yeah, over there. It says burrito over there, and burrito's not here anymore. For the podcast, I don't know if I'm going to cut this out or not. If you guys have any questions on Periscope, I can answer them until he gets back. But I would like to do is, go through some of Todd Gurley's stats this year, just looking at his touches. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't have time to do that right now because it'll be really boring for a live stream. So if you guys have any questions, I'll see how this goes. I'm going to make sure that we are good to go. You know what? Fuck it. I will go and look at our quarterback rankings. How about that? Bam. Now Christian's going to yell at me as soon as he puts on the headphones.
All right, guys. The star of the show has returned.
I was just about to go through my quarterback rankings.
All right. Let's go through your quarterback rankings because I want to know what to do with Lamar Jackson. Because is he suddenly like the new Mahomes? Or has he just gotten fortunate with two, easy matchups and just, exploited those? Because I'm starting to think it's just the first. I'm starting to think it's the second thing there. He's exploited two easy matchups, but he's got another good matchup coming up. Like,
yes, 100%. Lamar Jackson is a product of the pretty easy schedule so far. This week is not going to be that much different. I think Lamar Jackson is very viable. Is he a top Is he the top quarterback of fantasy this year? I'm going to go ahead and say he's not going to be.
I agree.
Is he a quarterback one? Yes. Is he a strong quarterback one? I think so.
A strong quarterback one, so top 6 quarterback for the rest of the year.
I think so. I think he could be 4, 5, 6 in that area. The one thing that we do know, look, yes, he's had an easy schedule, and when people say, "Oh, but he's had an easy schedule," like other teams have good matchups and don't perform great. And so when a good quarterback has a good matchup and he does great, we have to say, hey, he's the real deal, because a lot of quarterbacks have good stuff and don't go crazy.
So Lamar Jackson is a quarterback that had a lot of hype from some fantasy analysts coming into the 2019 season. I was neither high nor low. I think I was really close to the consensus with Lamar Jackson that he was going to have a decent fantasy season, especially with that floor of the running. We saw that running floor. We saw that running ceiling last week with the 120 rushing yards and 16 rushing attempts. That's not going to be every week. As we saw week 1, he didn't really rush at all. He didn't need to. He threw 5 passing touchdowns. Right. However, I think we're going to go back to the Lamar Jackson that we're used to after week 3. Kansas City, I think we might see some more passing from him again. I think that offense is going to try to keep up with Kansas City's offense, and it should be a decent day in the air, which is not Lamar Jackson's game, but in the air for Lamar Jackson. But going now then to week 4 and moving after that, I think we'll see a return to somewhere in between. Lamar Jackson will be better than he was in his rookie season, but he will not be who we saw in the first 2 weeks. He can't be this 158.3 passer rating quarterback, and he can't be the 120-yard rushing quarterback every week. It's just not sustainable, obviously, but it's also much lower than that, in my opinion. I think rest of season, we're looking at quarterback 8 through 14, not a top 6 quarterback.
Okay. I think that, look, I don't think I feel strong enough to argue, but I mean, just looking at week to week, just give me next 4 matchups for Lamar Jackson, because I'll tell you, like, just looking at it this week,
look at the next 5. Only 2 of them are tough. He's gonna have He's gonna have 3 good games in the next 5. Then a bye, then New England. So if you look at the next 6 games, I think he's a good start at Kansas City, at Pittsburgh, and versus Cincinnati. I don't think he's going to be a good start versus Cleveland or at Seattle. But again, we have to kind of go with the flow and make sure that these defenses are what we think they are. I don't think Kansas City has anything special against the pass, especially. I think Cleveland is better than we've seen in the first 2 weeks, and they were, decent last week. But I think they're much better than what we saw in week 1. Even though I don't think they are as good as people want them to be or hype them up to be. But Cleveland's defense will be solid in week 4. Pittsburgh, I think, is a whatever team.
Yeah.
I definitely think that they are a bottom half of the league team. I know that our Steelers fans don't want to hear that, but they are a bottom half of the league team. Mm-hmm. And Cincinnati is obviously that. Seattle has a solid team for this year, and I don't think Lamar Jackson at Seattle will have a very good game. In fact, I think that has potential to be one of his worst games of the season at Seattle.
The thing I think about Lamar Jackson, and I know this isn't a huge deal, but it is worth noting, Lamar Jackson basically has a bonus. If you're in a 4-point touchdown game, he has an easy extra touchdown every game worth of rushing. He's gonna get at least 40 yards a game, which is basically an extra touchdown. So you're spotting Lamar Jackson an extra touchdown every game. I think that's pretty notable.
But how many passing touchdowns do you think he's going to finish with this season?
Give me over under, and I'll tell you.
30. He has 7 through 2 games.
It's going to be more than that. Yeah, I'd say over.
I say under.
Really?
Under 30 touchdowns.
Passing touchdowns?
Passing touchdowns, yeah.
I don't know, man. I think...
he had 5 rushing touchdowns in his rookie year. So...
Is he going to last all year?
Yeah.
How about over under 13 games played?
Yeah, he's going to play all year.
Yeah, so?
He's going to have a good year, man. He's going to have a good year. He's going to Lamar Jackson's going to rush for
500 yards,
700 yards. Yeah. He already has more than 100.
Yeah, and he had 75 last week, I think. So
no, he had more than 100.
Oh, did he have more than 100 last week?
120, yeah.
Just last week he had 120?
Just last week.
Oh, yeah.
Lamar Jackson will have 700 yards rushing this year.
Okay.
And 5 or 6 rushing touchdowns. That's where his values comes, man. He doesn't need to throw for 30 touchdowns. He's going to be just fine. He'll be a top 12 quarterback rest of the year. I just don't think he's this top 3 guy that people want him to be.
Okay, so this week we both have Pat Mahomes at 1.
It's not me shitting on Jackson. He'll be fine. You can start him every week. You'll be fine. Just be wary when he's at Seattle, for example.
Temper your expectations. I want to be wary. I think he could perform like a
That's fine.
starter.
It's quarterback starts are slightly different.
Right.
You can play a quarterback in a not great matchup.
Not much difference.
It's not like playing a running back
8
2 in a bad
15.
matchup. Don't do that.
Exactly.
Right? Don't play a flex running back in a bad matchup. Don't
right.
play. Don't come out here and say, "Hey, I'm going to start Phillip Lindsay against the number 1 rush defense." You're going to have a bad day.
Yeah.
So just it depends on the position. Quarterbacks, especially running quarterbacks with a floor like Lamar Jackson, won't typically have horrible days.
Right.
So all right, we spent way too much time on Lamar Jackson, man. Let's move on to another position.
Well, hold on. This is a pretty good one here. Josh Allen. What I saw from Josh Allen last week one, Buffalo's playing very well. Their defense is pretty good. And Josh Allen, man, he just looks sharp. Like, and I don't want to compare because I do,
Josh Allen.
When Cam Newton was on his tear, what 3 years ago, when the Panthers almost went undefeated. That was I don't know what 2-3 years ago. Anyways, when Cam Newton was being the man,
I'd say that was 5 years ago.
Was it? Jeez. Well, you know what I'm talking about.
2015, 4 years ago. I think that's what it was.
When his passes,
when was the last year Manning played? Because that was 2015.
Right. 2015, I think. Yeah.
2015 Panthers.
Anyways, when we are looking at, crisp passes and moving well in the pocket and running when he needs to.
Damn, I'm good at this. 15-1, 2015 Panthers.
Yeah. Josh Allen just looked that good. I have him the sixth best quarterback this week against Cincinnati. That people can tear Cincinnati to shreds, and Buffalo's just playing that well. I have no issue starting Josh Allen over, being in the top six.
Give me one guy that's surprising that you're going to start Josh Allen over. Starting Josh Allen over
Aaron
Cam
Rodgers.
Newton?
Yes. Well, yeah, definitely.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Cam's
He's not playing.
banged up. Yeah, he's probably not going to play. Okay, you're going to start him over Aaron Rodgers. So
Yes.
you have Josh Allen in your top 8?
I have Aaron Rodgers at 8, yes.
And you have Josh Allen at 7.
Yep.
That's a mistake.
I have Josh Allen at 6. I have Russell Wilson at 7.
Wow.
I'm not crazy. I mean,
I'd rather have Mahomes, Prescott, Jackson, Watson, Brady, Ryan, Rodgers, Wentz, Wilson.
yeah.
And then I have Allen.
You had it. We're just not going.
I don't think that's a huge difference.
No.
It's like 4
It's
spots.
close.
It's not a big
It's nothing to argue over.
Allen's going to have a good day. But I don't think
John Chapman has.
I don't want to give him
4.
credit. Fuck Josh Allen. Fuck that guy.
He's good, man. Why? I mean, he passes the eye test for me, and I don't
You
know.
guys do that. He passes the eye test.
Mhm.
Oh, that's can't say that. Never mind.
He's looking good out there. Looking good in the neighborhood.
Josh Allen. Dale wants your number.
You said it.
I said what? What did I say?
Nothing. All right, let's look at our wide receiver. I just pulled up wide receiver rankings on our stream.
Okay. There you go.
Anything jump out to you?
Not really, man. Chris Godwin is in my top 8. I have a feeling that he's deserving of being in that list, but I mean, John clearly has Mike Evans there. You two have Mike Evans there. No love for Chris Godwin?
I mean, I don't like Jameis Winston at all. You can't trust him.
But you have Mike Evans. See, here's the thing.
Well, because
You have Mike Evans in there.
Mhm.
Chris Godwin just went, 8 receptions on 9 targets for 121 yards and a touchdown.
I have Chris Godwin ranked ahead of Mike Evans.
As do I.
Yeah.
So who's fucking up our ranks? Who's fucking up our consensus ranks then? Because our consensus ranks don't have Godwin in there in the top.
Because Steve has Godwin at 19.
Steve,
The
the fuck, man?
Steve.
Do not follow Steve at SPAC21 on Twitter.
No, SS Pack. He still hasn't changed his Twitter name.
SPAC.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Is that not what I said? SPAC?
Yeah, it's just hard to understand.
It's not like the SS pack.
It's SS Pack. It's like if he was a warship, he would be the SS Pack.
That's immediately what I thought. It's a warship.
Steve. Oh, hey, every fantasy guy needs a nickname. Steve is the fantasy warship.
Oh, okay. I was going to call him the fantasy tugboat.
That's good. Okay, that's better. You're better at nicknames than I am.
Fantasy tugboat.
And then
right.
and wait, hold on. This can get way better. So whenever like, oh man, I'm going to do this in post edit. But when we say, and welcome Steve Spacrotelli to the podcast, before he starts talking, we'll play the tugboat horn.
Okay. You don't think we have enough sounds that we randomly play? We need to add a fucking horn from a boat.
I don't know.
Hey man, listen. Here's where I kind of want to get at with these rankings here.
Okay,
I want to talk a little bit about Julio.
Julio who?
Really?
No, okay.
What other Julio is in the NFL that you know of that's famous and a wide receiver in our top 8?
I'm joking.
That's a really specific thing you just did.
Yeah.
Top 8 wide receivers, which is what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll give you 2 more hints. He played college at Alabama,
mm-hmm.
and his real name, if I'm not mistaken, is Quintorris.
Quintorris, yes. Quintorris Jones. Yeah.
So,
Quintorris. That's how I know.
That's why you don't remember. Is Quintorris. Okay, so my dude, 11 targets and 10 targets in the first 2 games. So 21 targets. That's been his game always. What hasn't always been his game is touchdowns. 3 touchdowns through the first 2 weeks. Also beautiful. What I'm a little concerned about is 11 catches on those 21 targets, and he only mustered up 31 yards for those in the first week. But again, 11 targets and a touchdown. Are we going to keep seeing Julio in the end zone? Because if so, then Julio needs to be in everybody's top 5 for the rest of the year, because he's going to continue to see that volume of targets, and it'll more often equate to what we saw in week 2 than what we saw in week 1.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that we have to judge wide receivers by is their target share and how often they're getting the ball and what their opportunity is.
Absolutely. If you're getting 21 targets through 2 weeks, you're going to continue to do that. My question is Julio going to keep scoring?
I mean, history says no, right?
And
but
how do you feel about this offense? Because looked really bad week 1, looked better week 2.
Atlanta running back still has not scored a touchdown through 2 weeks.
Right?
Yeesh.
But Julio has 3.
Yeah. I think that this is the way the offense is going to be ran. You have to think that they're going to get their running game.
Be ran. No running backs, though. So it's going to be caught that way.
Yeesh. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. That was bad.
Anyways, yes, just based off volume and consistency through 2 weeks, you have to rank Julio up there. I have him at 1, you have him at 2. We're not going to argue because you have Hopkins at 1, I have him at 2, so it is what it is. By the way, if you're streaming defenses, okay, let's kind of switch gears for a second. I know we're talking about wide receivers, but this has been on my mind. If you're streaming defenses, there are a couple sure bets this year.
This year or this week?
This year. The Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets are going to be scored on a ton. This might, and I've never done this before.
Potentially the Steelers.
Yeah, exactly. Potentially the Steelers. But, well, that still has to be seen. Right now, it's the Dolphins and Jets. Are you stashing teams that are playing both these teams? Like the Chargers are playing the Dolphins and Jets pretty close together. Are you stashing the Chargers? I am not one to have 2 defenses ever. But is this a year that you're thinking, man, like these games are week changers?
You have such sure bets where you know a team is going to play the Dolphins. Like,
yeah,
if you have the Bills defense and they're going to play the Dolphins twice, like maybe you stash them because that's 2 potentially huge games that you're going to get. So you're talking about a defense that you could get, and we got 2 games, right? Obviously, you got Cincinnati this week. Then you got a rough game versus New England the following week. But you follow that up later this season with Tennessee, Miami. Then you see Miami again. There's some good games in there that you maybe want to stash, but I'm not the kind of person that does that. It's you typically a roster spot that I don't want to give up, man.
Yeah. Yeah,
I can see if you're in a deeper league, there's no reason not to, right? But most of my leagues only have 5 or 6 bench spots, so it's just not worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Let's go back to wide receiver. I'm sorry. I'm going to throw out the wide receiver rankings up here on our screen. The top 8 are consensus: Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Odell Beckham Jr., Mike Evans, and Antonio Brown. I'm the lowest on Antonio Brown, even though it's playing the New York Jets. Like, I'm still a little nervous. Although, if you guys were watching that Patriots game, Tom Brady, you can even look at it in the box score, I guess. Tom Brady wants to feed him the ball, at least last week.
Came right out
It's crazy.
on that drive. Hey, let's just fucking feed Antonio Brown this drive. Now, he disappeared the rest of the game, but I think that had a lot to do with, like, they just didn't need him.
Yeah, well, he had 2 end zone targets back-to-back later in, I think, the couple drives after he scored. So it's like,
By the way, totally pushed the fuck off on his touchdown score, but whatever. Yeah. He's on several of my fantasy teams.
You let him get away with it.
Yeah.
What, did you just get a text?
No, I was concerned that might have been a risky joke, but I don't think you even did that on purpose.
Oh. No, didn't do it.
Cool.
But before we go on, I do want to say I started a Spotify playlist for Eat Sleep Fantasy. I don't know how you look it up. I guess I'll post a link. I'm not sure how you search for playlists. I'll post a link on all our social media later on today or tomorrow. And it's I already put in a couple of my favorites, and Brito and everybody else is going to put in their favorites. So if you like what we talk about, you're going to love what we listen to.
Are you going to let me have access to that?
I don't know how.
It's going to be really diverse. I'm going to tell you that right now.
You're going to just put a bunch of Bad Bunny, and I'm going to have a bunch of Run the Jewels. That's all the playlist.
It's going to be really diverse because somebody was mocking that today, that my music hopped from Bad Bunny to that Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga song.
Ugh, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. So I like that song. That's my karaoke song. Well, usually it's Backstreet Boys, but let's not talk about that. If you were there in Dallas, in not this year, but the year before, you would have seen me and Dale sing Backstreet Boys karaoke together.
Yeah, that was great. Good times.
Good times.
I do have a song. I don't know. Okay, it's called Uno. I think I sent it to you earlier, Christian. I'm sure you didn't read it.
I'm sure I didn't. No, I read it. I didn't. I clicked on it.
Yeah.
To be honest, I clicked on it, and then I said, and then I clicked out.
Yeah, look,
I'll listen to it.
I don't. Look, the problem is, I can't tell, and I even watched the video. I don't know how to say this.
Just say it.
Okay.
Just say it from the chest.
I'll just say it.
Say it with your chest.
Okay. So it seems like the artist is African American, but a lot of the song is kind of like in Spanish, and I kind of have a feeling that it's like I don't know, what do you call it, like appropriation. Like I think he's kind of like making fun of Spanish music a little bit, or I don't know, that like the Spanish culture. Maybe he really likes the Spanish culture. I'm not really sure what he's trying to say in the video or in the song or anything. It's really catchy though. So I will.
Yeah, things like that. Listen, man, I think Hispanics view a lot of this differently.
Sure.
And then you guys get mad at me when I do get upset about some of it. I think we view that cultural appropriation a little bit differently. Like, hey, the LeBron's out here doing Taco Tuesdays every Tuesday. Like, that's cool. Like, that's funny. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Fucking do it.
I did that.
Enjoy it.
I did that.
And if the music is you're enjoying the Spanish music and you're a black man and you like Spanish music, go for it, man.
Yeah. Okay. It's a catchy song. I'd highly suggest you look for our Spotify playlist. I'm going to post it on social media. And I have a couple other my favorites on there, and I think we'll be deleting and adding stuff all the time. So I don't know, it's something fun, something different. Look for it. If you guys, my stuff is mainly hip hop, and
mine will be a lot of hip hop.
No Lady Gaga.
No Lady Gaga.
Okay.
Dude, that one song is good though. Song is fire. Dude, have you seen that movie?
No, because
okay. Go watch
No,
that
I'm not.
movie.
No, I'm not watching that movie.
You're gonna cry. You're gonna watch a movie and cry.
I am sensitive to certain situations for sure, but I'm not watching that movie.
Anyways, the movie name is A Star Is Born, by the way.
Yes.
I think it came out last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
Critically
if you
acclaimed.
want to be sad.
All right, let's go do our tight end rankings, and then we're going to give people a little bit deeper dives because we're talking about the big names here. But we're going to go through just really quick after we talk about our tight ends. I just put them up on video on the live chat. We are looking at Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Zach Ertz, Evan Ingram, Mark Andrews is my number one for the week. Darren Waller, O.J. Howard, and Austin Hooper.
One.
Mark Andrews is special. Mark Andrews is special, I'm telling you.
I do want to say Darren Waller was such a good call by John.
Yes.
15 targets for a tight end through 2 weeks, and doesn't look like that's going to change much throughout this season. I think that was a great call. I think it has a lot to do with no Antonio Brown. There's not a lot of people to throw the ball to, and also they just like throwing to the tight end, whoever's there. So, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews is not only the real deal, but like the real deal.
He is going to be talked about how we talked about George Kittle last year. And dude has 16 catches on 18 targets, over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in 2 games. There is absolutely no reason you start him with confidence anywhere you have him unless you have Travis Kelce. Then you can kind of say, but if you have Mark Andrews pretty much anywhere, you are starting him. I mean, there's no reason not to. And I can understand, looking at T.J. Hawkinson week 1, you're thinking, okay, good game, let's see what he does. Didn't really perform. It was the other tight end, Disley, that got a lot of the looks from Russell Wilson week 2. This isn't the case. In Baltimore, it's Mark Andrews, man. I really like him. And it might be a little bold going him over Travis Kelce, but I just feel like Andrews just has a better matchup against Kansas City than Kelce does against Baltimore, if that makes sense.
Kelce, Kittle, and Ertz will continue to be my 1 through 3 for right now. But you convinced me to put Mark Andrews kind of in that group, and I put him number 4. So
yeah, I mean, look, Zach Ertz. I mean, all these guys. They're all legit in this top tier of the tight ends. I just think Mark Andrews is part of this top tier. I mean, Zach Ertz has 23 targets through the first 2 weeks. His catch rate is way lower, but 23 targets, 13 receptions, over 100 yards.
Yeah, man, he's so good at Ertz.
Yeah, that's original. Real original there, Burrito. What are you gonna say?
Was that guy you like? Andrews?
Yeah, Mark Andrews.
Mark my words, he's going to be good.
Oh, that's good. Do you still have faith in O.J. Howard?
You'll see.
You're trying,
They'll
right?
all Kelce.
I tried to run this show, and I'm just jumping through hoopers to get this back on track.
And by George, we'll get it back on track. Kittle.
You're Delaney Walker right through this episode, aren't you?
Fuck. What do we do with Njoku? See, that was the Njoku.
You're joking too much.
All right. I gotta do something with Njoku because that guy's not gonna play this week, man.
No, he's not. And maybe out even longer. We should have done news in this episode, but
stuff like that. We're gonna close it right here.
Really quick. Let's just go through quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. You give me one, I'll give you one. Somebody that we haven't talked about that people should know. Start with quarterback.
Start with quarterback. Like people should know outside of this top 8.
Yeah. Like somebody we didn't talk about that you want to talk about.
I think the Rams fix their offense this week, and Jared Goff will be a very nice fantasy start this week. I think that's going to be a nice fantasy game. Period. Both sides of the ball. Both teams. I mean.
Yeah, I mean 2 touchdowns in 2 games. You're not confident this week. You're hoping that he's going to get.
Well, let's fix that a little bit. 283 passing yards. Only threw the ball 28 times last week. It was a weird-ish game with what happened with New Orleans. Also rushed for a touchdown. Had a good game. I expect 300 and if I had to put a touchdown line, I'd put 2.5, but let's just say 303 for Jared Goff for this week.
That's interesting. Jared Goff is rushing for touchdowns now, huh?
Yeah, with his -2 rushing yards.
They'd rather beat up Jared Goff than Todd
Over
Gurley.
under rushing yards for the season for Jared Goff. I'm going to set it at 20. He had 100 last year, 108.
I'll go the over, but I don't think he's over 50. I'll take the under on 50. Is that fair?
Under on 50. Oh, man, 50 is a good call. Yeah, you're right. All right. Cool. Jared Goff.
Okay. My guy would be Jameis Winston. I know people are, sick of him, sick of watching him play, and sick of O.J. Howard. We really didn't get to talk to O.J. Howard too much, talk about O.J. Howard, but I still think he's super talented and has a lot to show this season. A couple of bad games, just so happens. A couple of bad games he has were week 1 and 2. I think Jameis Winston comes out in this New York Jets going to Tampa Bay, and he takes care of him. He's a top 12 quarterback this week.
Right.
Okay. All right, what about some running backs? Tell me somebody that we haven't talked about.
I'm going to give you a guy. I'm going to go with guys that I think will correct their seasons that they've had so far.
Okay, I'll do that too. Go.
All right. So here, I think not an explosive game, but enough to make you feel better out of Devonta Freeman.
You think he scores?
I think he scores, and I'll give you 70 rushing yards plus a score. Maybe a couple catches in there.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So he had 2 rough matchups to start the season. And while the Colts defense isn't poor against the run, they've been pretty bad on a yards per carry basis. So I don't think Freeman needs to rack up a ton of work to be effective and efficient in this game.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know how people are feeling about him. I feel like week 1 obviously did horrible, but week 2 against Miami he did better. I'm talking about Sony Michel. He's playing Miami and New York Jets back-to-back. I feel like he's going to have a similar performance, maybe better this year. He could be a top 12 running back this week against the Jets. Last week he had 85 rushing yards and a touchdown. I'll take the over on that for this week against the Jets. You agree or disagree?
That's a good one.
Okay. Later in the season, Sony Michel has, well, actually not really later, week 5, 6, 7, 8, he has Redskins, Giants, Jets, and Cleveland. That's looking pretty good. And then
That's really nice.
Starting week 14, he has Kansas City, Cincinnati, Buffalo, and Miami. Buffalo's not great, but I don't know. There's a good little stretch there for Sony Michel.
Sony Michel, yeah, that's a good one. That division outside of the Buffalo doesn't really have too much to contest the Patriots. We'll see how good Buffalo actually is. I think they are a decent team. Josh Allen is okay. I think he's going to be an okay NFL quarterback, which is more than I was willing to say last year.
Right. Are you going to come around on Marcus Mariota yet?
No.
Okay. I'll try next week. So,
I think that has a lot to do with Derrick Henry's actually good.
He is really good.
And we buried him way too early.
Yeah. Really quick, Sam Darnold is expected to return in week 5. Are the rumblings, if you guys haven't heard, you can get Jamison Crowder super cheap right now. Jamison Crowder, super cheap right now. I would implore you to try to get him for as cheap as you can right now.
Okay.
And maybe even Chris Herndon. He's coming back after week 4. It would be interesting if you really need a tight end. If you punt it on tight ends, Chris Herndon is really sneaky. Sneaky.
All right, I'm going to give you two wide receivers here, bonus here. For one, the reason I'm going to give you 2 is because I feel like the first one's a little bit of a cop-out. If I think Jared Goff is going to have a good game, I obviously believe his receivers will as well. Brandon Cooks, I expect to have a nice bounce-back game. Rough week 1, medium week 2, fire week 3 is what I expect for Brandon Cooks. And I'm going to double down here, even though it's New Orleans. The Seattle Seahawks are playing at home, and I like both the receivers here in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf to have nice games. DK Metcalf is a guy that you can get cheaper, but has seen some of that volume and looks that I expected from Russell Wilson, and I will continue to expect, some of that moving forward. 6 targets in week 1, 7 targets in week 2. I expect that. Expect that to be exactly what DK Metcalf will have all season, especially as he continues to gain that rapport with Wilson.
Yeah. Going back to Brandon Cooks this year.
Did I steal yours?
No. He has 5 receptions for over 100 yards in 2 games.
Well, yeah, that's that. Yeah, 5 receptions for over 100 yards is exactly what you expect for Brandon Cook's stat line. But that you expect that on a weekly basis,
right.
not over 2 weeks.
Exactly.
But 74 yards and a touchdown last week. Give me 100 yards and a touchdown this week.
Okay.
Give me your guy.
Oh, let's see. My guy would be. Let's go. I'm just looking at a guy that I maybe have a little bit different than everybody else.
Mark Andrews.
Holy cow.
Who's that?
Nothing. I will go with Cooper Kupp. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty evident that Jared Goff is picking up where he left off with Kupp.
Okay.
And targeted 3 times as much as Brandon Cooks, which I guess I kind of expected. Like, I really can't compare him. Cooks is more of a big yardage home run guy, but Cooper Kupp, 19 targets, 120 yards last week. No touchdowns yet. That'll change. But with as much volume as he's getting, we always say this about wide receivers, if they're almost guaranteed volume, you got to start them. Cooper Kupp is a solid running wide receiver too.
Makes sense.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Robert Woods is borderline wide receiver 1 and 2 this week, I think, in PPR formats. All right. Last but not least, the tight ends. And then we'll go.
I don't have a great tight end for you, man. I unfortunately, it seems like we're starting to see that who is emerging as a top, 5, 6, 7, 8 guy and who isn't. And if you don't have Kelsey, Kittle, Ertz, Andrews, Ingram, Waller, Olsen, or Hooper, then it's not going to be a great week, in my opinion. There isn't a ton of guys that I would trust. Now, if I had to go a guy that could potentially have a good week and be a little bit deeper, I might go. Man, you can't even I would love to say Trey Burton, but you can't trust that offense right now. Right. It's just there isn't enough. Will Disley maybe, because I think that offense is going to have a good game.
How about this? Jared Cook. He plays the Seahawks, like we talked about this week. See, who scored twice on the Seahawks last week? Vance McDonald.
Okay.
I
Good one,
think,
man.
I think that Jared Cook could go back this week to where we need him to be, or where we really wish he would be.
Dale's really cooking up the good picks here.
Thanks, man.
I enjoy that effort from you. I'm sorry, man. I'm
so
being
disly.
a real Kyle. Wow. What does that even fucking mean, Dale?
That was a really wit and comeback.
All right.
All right. I think this is good. I think our live show did pretty well. We didn't detract too much from the live. Anything you want to tell our live audience because they can see you?
I used our Manscaped to
Let's see.
shave my whole chest.
Let's see your balls. How much would it take?
I would have to lose all of the bets. And even then, my ball picks would have to go like on DMs.
5,000?
Fuck you. What have you like produced porn before? Like
I'm good at this, aren't I?
5,000.
You start
Great,
lower.
but this isn't going on the internet, right?
No. Yeah.
I've seen that one.
Yeah. They all say that.
Right.
All right. For Christian Brito, my name is Dale. Thanks for listening and watching. Make sure you're following us on social media because you get to get all the updates. We're going to figure out YouTube. I don't think we even went live on YouTube. I'm not sure, but we'll figure it out. If you guys need anything else, hit us up. eastleightfantasy.com. Thanks, guys.